I call this meeting to order at 6:02. Members present, we have Nick Poloni, myself, Dana Powers, Ted Gergen, Steve Brown, and I did just get a note that Jack will be here in 5 minutes. Nobody's absent. We have Connie with us, and it looks like Judy's with us. Is there anyone else?
Ryan will be joining us for the
okay.
closed session, and Patty will be joining us for the closed session.
Perfect. And then agenda,
I move to approve the agenda.
closed session agenda. So moved.
Steve Brown, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're all here. Okay. Opposed and no, sorry. We're going into closed. Nick. Aye.
Oh, Steve reads it all the time, doesn't he?
He's gonna move. We're gonna move
That's
these on
right.
to
We have
closed
to.
session.
Okay. I'm sorry.
I move that we go into close. I move that we go into closed session in the large group instruction room pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.851C to consider the employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. This will be to consider issuing preliminary notice of non-renew to contracted staff members. And this will deal with both grade level FTE and Salem staff for the 2021-22 and the 2020-2021 for Salem staff.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Nick. You have to say aye. I have to do
Oh,
individual roll
Nick.
call to go into
Aye.
closed. Ted.
Aye.
Steve.
Aye.
And Dana. Aye. We are in closed. We are back in open, and I will take any motions at this time.
Yes, I would like to make a motion that we consider issuing a preliminary notice of non-renewal to contracted staff members. One staff member at the kindergarten level, one at third grade, one at eighth grade, and one student services for purposes of a reduction of staff for the 2021-2022 school year.
So moved.
Second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and motion carries.
Who was the second, by the way? I'm sorry. Okay, thank you, Ted. Okay.
Great. Now, do we just go right into?
You would adjourn
We
Adjourn.
do have to
special
adjourn
board
this.
meeting, and then we
Okay.
would go into,
I move to adjourn the special board meeting at 7:01.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and we are adjourned.
Okay.
Does that have to be a roll call vote?
We're in open.
Or no?
Okay.
you would call to order the regular March board meeting.
Okay, great. I call this next meeting to order at 7:01. We have all of us here now present physically: Nick Filoni, myself, Dana Powers, Ted Gergen, Jack Nicolai, and Steve Brown. Administration present. We have Dr. Valenza, Marquez Guzman, and who's remote? Is Judy remote?
Yes.
She used to. Okay, and I'm assuming Ryan and Patty are as well. Okay, great. Stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and motion on the agenda.
I motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and agenda is approved. I do not have anything to report on today. Thank you for coming.
So for Staff Spotlight, I wanted to bring up Nicole Paul. She has been working in our district office, but she has assumed a lot of responsibility for our social media outreach. As you've noticed, we have a significant presence on Facebook right now. And she's made a concerted effort to try and get into classrooms, get pictures, get those up and posted, to engage with our community. I wanted to share a little video that she did. I think it pertains really well to our 4K discussion later this evening. Some of you have seen this.
That's awesome.
So again, that idea of trying to get, information out about our school, trying to have more of a social media presence, and just trying to publicize a little bit more all the great things that we're doing, so that community families, both in the Salem community, but also outside of the community, get a feel for what's going on here. So again, a thank you and just a spotlight on her for the work that she's been doing. See if we can move on. Technical difficulties. So, and then we're on to the clerk's report.
Okay, thank you. I'll just report on the upcoming election set for April 6th of 2021. The candidates running for the school board in this order on the ballot will be Nick Poloni, Jack Nicolai, and Ted Gergen. The two top vote getters will get the 3-year terms, and the third highest vote getter will get the 1-year term. And I have no correspondence, Madam President.
All right, so let's take a look at the treasurer's report dated February 2021. We will present the ending balance in each account. General fund cash account with an ending balance of $3,953,620.06. Credit card balance of $16,095.29. EBC Flex and HRA cash account with an ending balance of $12,845.93. Our capital improvement fund with a balance of $413,526.09. Petty cash $400. An LGIP of $504,489.57. For a grant asset total for February 2021 of $4,900,976.94. Are there any questions on the treasurer's report dated February 2021? I move to approve the treasurer's report dated February 2021 as presented.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries.
Before we get too far into the review and approved payment of accounts, I know that, Nick, you had a question about Eckert last time, and we had said we would follow up on that. Marquez, do you want to share a little bit about what you've learned?
Yes, so I met with Salem Building and Grounds Director Steve Squires and found out that Eckert tends to bill us on a quarterly basis or approximately a quarterly basis. There is no kind of set standard to that. So last month's approval of payments included 21 invoices that ranged from October of 2020 through January of 2021. So quite a big time span. So I asked Steve to reach out to Eckert and request that they send us invoices on a more timely basis, with at least on a minimum of monthly and hopefully more kind of as the work is done. And so this should lead to more frequent but smaller number of invoices per month. You'll notice that this month we don't have any Eckert invoices, but that's not to say that there wasn't any work done, but we might see it them come up a little more frequently, like I said, but with smaller number of invoices per month.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And furthermore, with the idea you said 2020, that's super important, right? So that was my main concern. So thank you for, okay, perfect.
And I do think also sometimes they end up being our go-to because the equipment came from them. So a prime example, when we had our interesting little gas leak, of course, we had to contact Eckert to come in and fix that immediately. So there would be some reasons, even on a monthly or day-to-day basis, where we may need to contact them for maintenance of the equipment that we have. So, right, so review and approve payment of accounts payable.
Sure.
Have we purchased the lawnmower? Yeah.
The requisition was approved and the PO was sent over to Midstate. I don't think we've actually purchased it, so to speak, but the process is underway. So,
We don't need it quite yet.
Yes, be ready.
Unless we're gonna plow the snow with it.
Today, we don't need it.
Tomorrow, maybe.
You never know, it is Wisconsin, right?
First shift on that, right?
For sure. All right, let's take a look at the payment of accounts payable bills dated 1/23/21 through 2/19/21. Those would include checks numbered 69726. Sorry, where did I do this? I might screw that up in my own head. No, that would be 70025 through 70079, and 202000545 through 202000564.
So, did you have the total in there?
No, those are just the check numbers.
Oh, that's all we did.
Are there any questions on the payment of accounts payable bills? Right, I move to approve the payment of accounts payable bills dated 1/23/21 through 2/19/21 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And motion carries. Thank you.
We have the minutes of our regular school board meeting from February 23rd, 2021, as printed or amended.
Probably these are linked, so we can kind of look at it.
Yeah, I believe.
Yeah, mine didn't come up either. Can we postpone it then?
Yeah, sure. And then we can just hit refresh real quick. Right, that's probably the easiest thing to do.
You can do that?
But then we wouldn't have time to review it. Does that matter? Are we allowed?
We could just table it to
We
next.
could table it and
Okay.
approve it at our
Let's
next
just do
board
that.
meeting.
So we have time to.
Good, I'm glad I didn't sign these yet.
Do a motion if we table something?
Um,
I don't think so.
I'm not an expert, but
No,
I
no, we
believe
just
so.
tabled it. We just tabled it.
Did we receive any public comments? No. No. Okay. We'll just kind of breeze past that then.
We have the first item on the agenda is an action item for a contracted staff resignation. Heather Kozlowski, our school psychologist, has submitted her resignation effective at the end of the school year. She's been with our school district for the last 2 years, and prior to coming to Salem was many years with CESA 2. Our recommendation would be to accept the resignation of Heather Kozlowski effective June 4th, 2021, as presented.
I move to accept the resignation of Heather Kozlowski effective June 4th, 2021 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed and motion carries.
We have on the agenda this evening the 2021-22 school year calendar. I will preface this by saying that we believe that this is the calendar for next year. However, if you recall last year, we approved a calendar and then things dramatically changed. So we believe next year will be very much a normal school year. So you will notice that the calendar looks very much like our original calendar for this school year looked. Just some highlights of the calendar. It follows the breaks of Westosha Central. That is one of the things that we've heard from our families is important. It creates time for collaboration on Tuesday and Wednesday. This is a little bit of a change. We initially proposed Tuesday and Thursday, but staff indicated that having that continuity to go from one day and continue the discussion the next day was important. From that 7:30 a.m. coming off of a strange year here, by 2, but in exchange, it adds in that additional time in the morning for staff to work collaboratively. The calendar starts on September 1 and ends on June 3rd, and it has 4.5 days built in for weather or emergency. The recommendation would be to accept the proposed, I'd love to say permanent, I'm hopeful everything is back to normal, proposed 2021-22 school year calendar as presented.
I motion to accept the proposed 2021-2022 school year calendar as presented. Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye with fingers crossed.
Opposed? You're raising me up.
Those going once,
Motion carries.
Do you have an idea how many snow or weather emergency days we typically take historically over like the last 5 years?
you know, that's a really tough one. So like this year we had 1, last year we had none, the year before that you had 5. And so it was, I mean, because remember that huge cold snap. So, you know, some of that is very much dependent. I think the key though is that the calendar is built to meet the needs of kids and provide as much instructional time. And we're just not in trouble with the state. You know, I don't think anyone would suggest that we build a calendar that has the least amount of days possible. We believe that this is a good calendar from an instructional perspective, but it does have some time built in case of a weather emergency. Which we're not going to do. Or last week. Any number of things. Right. So moving on to discuss 4K a little bit, I want to just paint a little bit of picture of our historical 4K enrollments. Going back a few years, we had 74 students sitting in seats. There, the balance number of students open enrolled in to out was 11 in, 14 out. Then the next year, we had 84 students with 9 in and 17 out. 81 in 2018, 12 in, 9 out. 2019, 84, 9 in, 16 out. 2020, so a unique year, COVID. Many families made a decision at that point maybe not to send their children to 4K. We had 69 students in seats, but this was spread across virtual and on-site. And 7 students open enrolled in, 6 open enrolled out. Where we're at right now, it's not time to say the sky's falling, but concerning. We have 39 4K enrollment packets returned, meaning these are students and families that have indicated that they will be attending. We have 8 4K open enrollment in applications and 17 K4 open enrollment out applications. The open enrollment period runs until the end of April. Now, typically you see the majority of them at the beginning, but new ones can come in or changes can be made. I would also say that's not the only changes that could happen after that April. For example, if a student were to choose to open enroll out and then change their mind, they absolutely can come back. There's nothing that prevents them from doing that. But that's kind of where we sit right now.
I have a question. Sure. The 8 4K open enrollment application, is that 4 in addition to the 8 or part of the 8?
It's 4 of the 8.
4 of the 8. Okay.
So what that means, when you request open enrollment to a district, you can request to open enroll to up to 3 districts. So you may have a family that says, I might want to go to Salem, I might want to go to another district, I'm not sure yet. When you have a requested open enrollment packet, typically that parent is sure. So that's why we indicate that on there.
do have another quick question, Marquez or Connie both. Like, are we aware of any potential developments coming in the pipeline that might, like, there's some development that's happening in Paddock Lake by McDonald's over there that would help with any of these numbers?
So we don't have any significant information, and that's the difficult part. I think, this is such a unique area of the state because we know eventually it will grow. We don't know when. We've had lots of conversations. Is Foxconn moving in? How big is Uline getting? How big? All of those areas could potentially have an impact. But housing right now in Salem is not real available, and especially what I would call young family housing. There's not a surplus of rental units available. In fact, it's very difficult to find rental units in Salem. There isn't a lot of new builds going on, and particularly new builds in what you would call that kind of young family budget area. There's not a lot of vacancy in homes up for sale. So that's difficult to grow then when you don't have housing to grow into. So if you look at some of those districts that are really growing fast, what you're seeing is a lot of housing builds, and you're just not seeing that here. We do, though, traditionally as a district, and I mentioned this before, have a significant number of students who open and roll out. And this to me was really meaningful because I was trying to get a handle on what's happening. Why are students open and rolling out? And there's a lot of reasons for that, but just a simple look at the map will tell you that there are places in our district where kids live closer to other district schools. A prime example would be Bristol. There are places where students are maybe 2 to 3 miles from Bristol School and are 10 minutes around to get kind of around the lakes and get here to Salem. And so that's always going to be a challenge for our district. And I think the only way to address that is to become what I would call a destination district. And that's not as easy as it sounds. I mean, obviously you need programs that are really kind of stand out. And what I'm going to suggest now is in no way a finished product. But one of the things that we've been talking about is the concept of a full day 4K. Not as a requirement, so in other words, not requiring parents to choose full day 4K, but as an option. And I think the reason we started going down this path was if you think about what our parents really appreciated this last year was having choices and being able to say, right now where I'm at, I'm not comfortable with my child in school. I would like to choose the virtual, or I'd like to choose the blended, or I'd like to choose the traditional. And I believe our parents really appreciated that ability. What this does is it would allow that parental choice at 4K. So parents then could decide, would they want their child in a 5-day program that meets half days, so morning or afternoon, or would they like their child to be in a full day 4K program that meets 4 days? So our plan right now would be Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday for a typical full day. So students would be here for 4 days. One of the questions that may come up is why not 5 days? Well, what's a little bit difficult with really young children is that the concept of traveling to a music class, traveling to an art class, traveling to a FIAD class isn't really the best kind of structure for student learning at that age. So under this scenario, the teachers would necessarily be in there most of the day and wouldn't have that opportunity to do some of the planning outside that they would need to try and do then on that Wednesday. The other piece that we would hope to accomplish around that would be that those Wednesdays would be days of significant family and parent outreach as well. So in other words, working with kids who, for example, may need a little more attention to try and kind of close that achievement gap early on. Families that may not be as engaged and have an opportunity to conference and actually work with and spend time with our staff. So, so what do we want to provide in that 4K? A program that's so compelling as to make it a destination program. So really looking at all aspects of what we offer during the day for our 4K students. Moving from kind of play-based learning, which is where we're at, and you saw in the video, to a real much more exploration kind of focus outside of the building walls when appropriate, within when other activities are being, developed in that area. High quality programming to extended opportunities. So again, more interaction within our community, asking, hopefully COVID allows us to do that, asking families and community members to come in and work with our kids, so that there's much more of that extended outreach. Family participation, more than just open house, actual kind of family outreach and engagement, and then going from field trips to actually work off of school grounds in more of a field work type setting, not just the occasional field trip that students take. So a change overall in how we look at programming, and this would be true regardless of which 4K program our families chose. Again, that focus on kind of extending beyond the classroom. We want to provide families with a choice. I alluded to that. Families can decide what the best learning experience is for their child, 5 half days or 4 full days. Wednesday would be that planning family outreach day. Seeking to support diverse learners. We've heard a lot across the state, especially with COVID, about that academic achievement, that learning gap that occurs, and trying to address that early on with students. Time to address their challenges, a time to dig deeper for those learners whose favorite question is why, and continuity for children and families. I think one of the things that we really focused on in opening up our school this year was we knew how important it was for our families, especially families of essential workers, that we be open. We have many families, because of family circumstances, that have to work. So students then go from being here to then going into daycare the other half of the day. And trying to provide some continuity so that you don't necessarily have that change in environments if that's something that's necessary for you as a family. And research clearly shows that full day 4K provides sufficient time to close the achievement gap or prevent it altogether. We're not at this point saying that all kids should be in school for a full day for 4K. We're very much talking about a choice for our families. Some of the potential concerns, obviously there's some additional cost, and right now the state only reimburses 4K at 50% of a full-time student. So when you're doing your September count, our little 4Kers, because they're a lot shorter, they only count for half. But no, they only count for half, and so there would be an additional district outlay, because obviously we'd be paying for those kids to be here full time, and the choice would likely lead to an increase in busing costs. So if we're going to give our families a choice, there will still be that need for families who are here half day to be transported, and our kids who are here full day. So there could be some additional cost there. Next steps, obviously the first step that we're asking tonight would be board approval, then significant community and family outreach to our families to give them the great news about the new programming we're looking at doing, trying to look for families that may consider enrolling, get those choices, so determine our enrollment for appropriate staffing. How many sections are we going to need of full day 4K? How many sections will we need of half day 4K? And then ongoing between now and the start of the school year will be some significant staff development, time to develop curriculum and instructional strategies that are best practice for our 4K students. So the recommendation would be to approve offering full day 4K as a family choice option for the 2021-22 school year as presented.
I move to approve offering full day 4K as a family choice option for the 2021-22 school year as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and motion carries.
Well, let's get the press rolling. We'll have to contact them and get this information out there to our families so they can then make those choices.
I'm sure Nicole is just waiting. Like,
She is, and thank you.
Just press send.
yes.
It's already out there right now.
And on behalf of our staff and students, let me sincerely say thank you, because I think this will be a very nice addition for our families and our kids.
Yeah, you know, also, I was just looking at the department, at the DPI site, and there's a lot of information on the DPI site, and I think getting something out to DPI that we have done this, and I think right now there are, I forget the exact number of school districts around the state that offer it, but I think it'd be good to get an immediate release out from our district out to everyone, including DPI.
Thank you. The other thing I would say is, if you look at the governor's budget, there is a recommendation in there for full counting of 4K students, not this next school year, but the following school year. Now, whether that passes or not, but there's definitely, every biennial budget for quite some time now has been a recommendation to move to a full day 4K. So.
That's for sure.
The next action item, we have had for many years a lease agreement with Choo Choo Child Care, referred to mainly around here as Kids Club. They've rented our facilities from the Salem School District to provide community child care programming, 4K wraparound programming, and before and after school programming since 2006. The actual lease, however, has not been updated for many years. The agreement, we met with them and had a significant, really good conversation around programming and space needs and what their future outlook is and what our future outlook is, and came to agreement on covering room 308, 335, and 302, which means not much, other than it is in that old section of the building that we have that presently is not used for our students in our daily regular programming, as well as the cafeteria, gymnasium, and playground space as available, because the district then does take precedence in those spaces as we need them. What's being discussed is a one-year lease beginning July 1, 2021, to include the 3 classrooms and multi-use space at a rate of $800 per month. This is, and I just want to clarify, this is a facilities agreement, not a programming agreement, although the Salem School District has had a long-term partnership with Kids Club for many years, providing benefit with our families. And I think one of the real quality things that came out of that conversation was kind of a mutual discussion and meeting of what our goals are. We recognize that it is beneficial to our families to have on-site wraparound care. And we also want to make sure that that care is of the highest quality available and provided to our students. So it was a great opportunity for us to kind of have a meeting of the minds and talk about what we're working on and what they're working on to meet the needs of our kids and families in our school district. The recommendation would be to approve the rental contract with Choo Choo Child Care Limited as presented.
A motion to approve the rental contract with Choo Choo Child Care Ltd. as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and motion carries.
And as you've asked me to bring this back every month, so I have done so. And that is to revisit our outside group access to indoor facilities. You can see that the, I guess I would call our COVID model, it has gone down significantly, the number of infections. It's a little bit of a tip up, so you see a little bit of an increase again, but not into any of those danger areas. Again, some of the considerations, we have canceled all of our in-facility group activities after school at this point, with one noticeable exception. Again, looking at trying to limit the number of building areas to clean and monitor at night. Volleyball practices, though, have begun with safety protocols in place, so it's nice to see students here after school. This is kind of our first step back. No decision has yet been made on softball or track, but those would both be outside, so I anticipate that those decisions will be made soon and that we'll participate in those. Our staff will not be fully vaccinated with both staffs until early April, so April 1st is when they get the second dose, and typically it's 2 weeks after that second dose that there's kind of that agreement that at that point most adults are safe then at that point from a significant episode of or infection of COVID. Board did approve community-based activities that support community health needs. So again, the Red Cross Blood Drive. We will be participating with the Lions Club and some of the vision screening that we have going forward. Again, that was one of those areas that I felt kind of fit in there with safety protocols in place. A decision was made very recently to provide a limited in-person 8th grade promotion celebration. We feel confident that we can pull something off at a minimum outside. We're not ready to say that that would be inside, and we're not ready to say that it would be open to all that want to view that, but we will definitely be moving forward with some sort of an in-person, unless things significantly change again. So beyond that, I don't have a specific ask of you in terms of the next step. Not anything, I mean, it's really only been about 3 weeks. We've just started down that road of having in-school activities after school, but too soon to really draw conclusions about how well it's going. But again, I was asked to bring it back every month, so.
I need some input. I'm not familiar with how the seasons run during the school year, which sports happen at what time during the year. As far as the years we are now, what would still have been happening at this point in a regular school year?
So we would typically move into volleyball at this point, so we're not too far off that. Softball, there's a conversation about having softball this spring, but typically that is held in the fall, but it was not able to be done. We're moving right fairly quickly into that time period where track is typically open at the middle school level.
Thank you.
And then one other thing too, and I'm gonna, so we have moved a pretty long way now in looking to be able to deliver a extra special concert for people involving our music department. We've got some real experts around technology that we're kind of working on that, but we've tiptoed down that road of bringing the kids together for a large group practice. And of course, that's a little risky because now you're moving different homerooms together, but we believe that we've been able to mitigate most of the threat around that. So little by little, we kind of look to, as safely as we can, bring things a little more and more back to normal here. With a huge goal, and I want to get this out there, the goal is for next year to look as close to a normal year as possible. 5 days a week, kids in school, fairly typical kind of school day where they're moving from classroom to classroom. Those are all of the goals. You know, we have a little ways to get there, but I think each of these steps every month gets us a little closer to that.
I think we keep revisiting.
So I guess, I'm just bringing it back every month.
No, appreciate it.
Sounds like you're making some baby steps that are getting things rolling here.
I'm here to follow your directives.
Bonnie, I think our concern has always been the mixing of cohorts with after-school programming, with boys, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, right? Like the music program, that's a baby step, and it's contained within our mitigation strategies.
And I think volleyball, and I think, the next thing we would probably look at, most of our clubs have been virtual. Would we consider bringing some of them back for a day here? So, but I think that's where most of our efforts have been, like you said, kind of baby steps, trying to keep our cohorts and then trying to minimize the number of adults and that type of thing that are in the building. So action item, this is a late action item, but in most cases, in order to kind of finalize when you have some of these agreements, each of the districts has to settle their various contracts and what staffing looks like. But this is a shared services contract between Salem and Paris. In this case, Paris is the fiscal agent. We have agreements that are the other way. For speech and language, have about a 50% FTE as it relates to this, and the total cost to Salem is $57,337.14. So the recommendation would be to approve shared services contract with Paris School District in the amount of $57,337.14 for the 2020-21 school year as presented.
I move to approve the shared services contract with the Paris School District in the amount of $57,337.14 for the 2020-2021 school year as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And motion carries.
So just to thank you, a second look at 2021-22 budget. There are a couple factors that really significantly drive our budget. The number one factor is enrollment. And that's a picture right now that is very difficult to call into the crystal ball. As we approached, if you recall, this fall, we did our third Friday count. We were down by 74 students from where we were the year previously. That is a significant decrease in students. We can talk about what some of the reasons were for that. The biggest reason was we had a large 8th grade class that left, and we had a small 4K class that came in. That was the biggest. However, we had families that made a decision to go to homeschool. We had families that decided to go to another district. So there were factors in there, but the most significant one is that natural kind of transition from 8th grade leaving to 4K coming in. As we look ahead, the bigger concern then is it just this 74 student drop, which is significant, or are we likely to see another decline next year? And I would say the answer to that, sadly, is yes. Again, our 4K class coming in appears to be a pretty small class. Our 8th grade class that graduated was in that 103, 106 range. It looks like we have, under a good scenario, and again, 4K is out there, so we're gonna try and build that up. But under a good scenario, it's probably looking like we're only gonna be bringing in about 70 students. What that means is, over that 2-year period, we will be down over 100 students. Is that a couple-year blip because of COVID? Have conversations with pretty much every district, and that is a common across districts. You know, I hate to look down the road, but if you've been reading some of the statistics about the birth rate right now during COVID is depressing. I mean, significantly lowered birth rates. And so, I mean, those are just some of the realities that we're looking at going forward. But what does that mean for us? I asked Marquez to take a look at so we could start predicting out. And there really are 3 different scenarios for revenue limit, with one of them being the best case scenario. And to say that the state could potentially give us a 0 increase, it's certainly not what the governor has proposed. But I would also say that there's definitely a perspective on the part of some in the Assembly and Senate, for example, that we have some of that federal money coming in so that districts don't necessarily need that increase. So none of us knows how that will pan out, and we probably won't know until summer. But I asked Marquez to do a build on a 0 increase, which I think is a possibility, a $100 increase per pupil, and a 200, which would be best case scenario. That's what the governor has requested as relief in the revenue cap. Even with the best case scenario, right now, meaning we don't lose any more students next year. So again, best case scenario, right now, top with 200 per pupil, will be down about $445,000 in our revenue limit. So a very significant amount down based on current enrollment projections. And that's why some of the conversations we've been having of really trying to take a look at our enrollment and make sure that our enrollment is reflective of our staffing. Do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think Connie kind of hit it on the head. You know, when you're doing budget planning, really at the heart of it is the students, because that's why we're all here, right? And then you know, kind of the next thing you look at is the effects on the revenue limit, which you can see right there. Obviously not ideal. And then I think hopefully by next month, and you know, as more information becomes available, we'll work out some additional scenarios more on the expenditure side, kind of present some, you know, different scenarios. You know, what happens with a 0 increase, a $200 increase, what happens with this percent increase in our healthcare costs, things like that. So yeah, we'll be coming back with more detailed kind of budget scenarios in future months, and yeah, as we find out more information from the governor's budget and what passes at the state level, we'll keep updating the budget models.
And these are all, you know, kind of difficult conversations to have. One of the things that is a goal of mine is to make sure that we're being as absolutely transparent with our community as possible in terms of where our dollars go and how we determine what those dollars are and what goes to staffing. And because, as you know, it will only be another year after this year where we're going to have those conversations with our community about what it takes to deliver the quality of programming that we have here at Salem going up, you know, into the future. Obviously, we don't want to be in a worst case scenario where we're making significant cuts. So my goal this year and working through this year is really trying to nail down, having conversation, being very clear with our community about what is the absolute minimum we need for operating to continue to provide the quality of programming we're doing. And then mixed in that next piece, as you know, we've been working to get significant information around our facilities and what are the big expenditures down the road in terms of long-range facilities. Do our present facilities allow us to provide the level of educational programming that we feel is necessary for our students? So again, real tough conversations, but they have to start with that, what does it take to operate with the number of students we have, providing quality programming for those students? So thank you for your work on that, Marquez.
Yeah, and I just want to quickly add too that I'm getting very close to breaking. Basically, I've downloaded every budget account that we have in a 3-year history and kind of lumped it into different budget areas so that we can get closer to seeing really what do we need to continue operating at our current level, and then what percentage need to go towards facilities. So I'm getting very close. I wish it wasn't such a short time span between our last meeting and this one. If I would have had another week, I think I'd have a little more information on that part. But by next meeting, we'll have some more information for you.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
We are not disappointed.
Just not have you rush through it.
Done
you know.
absolutely amazing. So
Well,
don't
thanks.
even give that a second
It's
thought.
been okay.
No, come on now. It's hilarious.
It's been really awesome. We have lots of conversation about, and some of them get very worrisome in terms of what is this going to look like and what is that going to look like. But I think, again, with really trying to kind of nail down what do we need, and is the money that we're asking of our taxpayers that they have so generously given us going to the best possible educational use as we can make it. So.
Right, and there's always that balance, and we always hear it, you know, the balance of the educational programs and especially all the, last year, all the school districts that passed all the referenda, is that correct? Isn't that the plural? I think, that passed all those districts that passed, their referenda. And that balance between educational needs and then all the needs of facilities, especially when buildings, like our own facility here, there are parts of our building that go back, a very long time, and we all know that. You were talking about those places in our facility that Choo Choo is using that go back 70, 80 years, right, or more, I believe, right?
And just, I mean, that part of the conversation, so many of those places that Choo Choo Daycare is using, we could not use because they're not disability, accessible. There are aspects of those facilities that we can't use them for student programming.
Right, they're still safe
Yep.
for what they do.
For what's done. So there are different codes as it relates to that and that kind of programming. So I'm not trying to send a message that those areas of the building aren't safe, but for our perspective, we're not able presently, based on what those facilities are, to use them for educational programming. Okay. So administrator reports. We're going to start out, since you've already been taking up the whole meeting.
I'll try to keep it short. So one of the first things I did when I started here was send out a brief survey out to all staff, really to kind of get two things. I wanted to get feedback on areas for improvement for our office, for the business office, and also to figure out kind of what people preferred in terms of communication. So in the past, there was a somewhat regular communication called the Business Office Buzz that went out. So we've kind of rebranded it, and now we're calling it the Business Office Beacon. But really, the idea is to, on a regular basis, maybe I don't want to clog anybody's inbox up with daily emails, but kind of save them up, on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, kind of sending out financially or business office related communication. And then the other piece on that survey that people wanted or said that they wanted was multimodal communication. So they wanted emails from us, but then they also wanted to be able to access that. So we now put every communication we send out is also on our website. And then additionally, we provide a link in our Splash, which is our daily one. It's just not to clog up the Splash either, but just a link saying here's the link to the Business Office Buzz or Business Office Beacon that was sent yesterday. So so just want to let you guys know that we have that going out, and if you do want to view it, I don't know if you are getting the email, but if you aren't, it's also on our website on the business office section of the website.
Will you be handling all marketing going forward?
I don't know. I think leave that more up to Nicole. I'm not very artsy or very good on the marketing side. I'm more of a numbers guy.
We'll trust you with that then. You stick with that.
I just want to thank the board members who I bugged for getting signatures, and you had to sign, 20 signatures, or I don't know how many it was, but it was a lot. But we were able to update our signatures for authorizers at the Community State Bank account that we have. And then also we updated our signatures for Skyward, so now our AP checks going out moving forward. Not on this next check run, but hopefully by the next one we'll have the correct signatures for current board members that had some board members whose terms had expired. So that was another thing I wanted to get done. We did schedule our April 1st debt payment for Fund 38. So the April payment includes principal and interest, and then we do have a payment in October as well, and that one's just interest. So that was a big payment. So our bank account will be a little smaller on the next report. You'll see. And we do have to schedule that a couple days in advance because they needed one business day before, and then you got to factor in holidays and things like that. So it'll be going out next week. And then the last thing I wanted to mention, kind of related to budgeting and that project I have of trying to categorize all the expenses, is looking at revising our account code structure that we use for the district. So currently we follow the DPI woofer structure, and one of the segments of the woofer is the location. we only use one location here, which makes reporting very easy to DPI because everything's in the same location. But it does make it a little hard to run reports. So I am looking at potentially adding a few locations so we can kind of more easily track expenses, provide a little more visibility to me and Connie, run reports a little easier. So things like having a location for technology and building and ground, so we can kind of see year to year, like how is spending, is it going up, is it going down, things like that.
That's great.
So that's one of the projects I'm working on. And then as we build the budget, kind of building it using those areas and those people in charge of it, and really using it to eventually hold people accountable for spending as well.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Patty, are you around?
I'm here. I'm hiding.
Oh,
Looking that way.
Behind the TV, I thought,
Where
yeah.
is she? Hi, everybody.
Hello again.
Hello?
Well, first I want to start by saying thank you very much for approving our 4K full day proposal. The team is already very excitedly planning, got lots of great ideas. I think it's going to be a really great addition to Salem. I want to take my time today to share some updates on our new programming. First of all, on Sunday is our phonics program. And what you're seeing here is an example of a mastery check from a second grade teacher. So Sunday is a very structured, explicit phonics program that breaks down words down to phonemic awareness, phonics, spelling, fluency, vocabulary. So when we're starting at kindergarten and moving up through 5th grade, the students are learning the building blocks of words and really understanding why they're spelled the way they're spelled. So this is a mastery check that happens about every 5 days. And as students are practicing the patterns, which at the bottom of this document, those are all the patterns that the second graders have learned so far. Ending blends, vowel pairs, silent E, and they learn when those rules would be applied. So when they're taking these mastery checks, they're not necessarily given a spelling list that they're learning those particular words. They're learning the patterns. And then the teacher might give them a word they've never seen before. But if they know the patterns, if they learned the phonics appropriately, then they should be able to spell the word. So that's what the mastery check checks for. The student didn't miss any of their words, but if they had, the teacher put the words in the category. So the children knew and families know what pattern that child needs to continue to work on. So some really great feedback, both to the students and families. Our other new program this year is ARC, our reading program, and this is from Mrs. Reinberg's class in 5th grade. Students right now are studying the adventure genre, really digging into what does that genre look like. They are drafting a 5-paragraph comparative analysis essay. So they're reading a couple of books and then deciding on a common theme. What theme do these 2 books have in common? And then they're writing a 5-paragraph essay to justify why they believe that theme is common for those books. So this is an example from a 5th grade student. They have the theme at the top. Scary situations are hard, but you must keep going in order to survive. That's the theme that they determined. And then through an introduction, 3 paragraphs and a conclusion, they justify that answer, giving specific evidence from these 2 texts. So at the 5th grade level, they're really digging into some high level thinking. And it's exciting to see them get to this point from where they started at the beginning of the year. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
I wish I could write
Thanks,
that
Patty.
well.
right?
You could write that one.
Yeah, that was a good story.
Hello.
Hi.
Just a couple quick things for me. So last week on Thursday and Friday, Dr. Valenza kind of already talked about this, but military schoolers did come in and they recorded for their virtual band concert. We also did invite all virtual students in, and we were very excited to see those students come in. Almost all of them did come in. Special thanks to Dan and the tech team who actually spent a lot of time recording that, and now they're going through the fun job of editing all of those materials. And that's not an easy thing to do when you're trying to take students who did record from home and trying to merge it into something obviously at school too. So we're hoping that concert will be made available to watch after spring break. And then also Reed did a really good job getting all those families in. Like I said, we were kind of surprised how many actually came in, which was great. I think only 3 or 4 virtual students didn't end up coming in for that day. So and how we kind of did that safely is we did it by grade level, like Dr. Bones already brought. We had them in the gym all 6 feet apart. And so that turned out really well. We're looking forward to seeing kind of the final editing once that's all done. So the other thing that's already coming up, believe it or not, is forward testing after spring break. So we're going to kind of start that plan in middle school is the week of April 5th. And students are going to do 1 content area per week. In the past, how that's been done is students have always been doing all the content areas in 1 week, which made for a very exhausting week. In my opinion, it probably wasn't the most practical, and it didn't really give our students the best opportunity to succeed. Particularly in 8th grade when they also have to take a science and social studies section. So really we're going to do it over the course of 4 weeks. In 6th and 7th grade, they just need to take reading and math. So they'll test on the 1st and 4th week. And then 8th grade will test weeks 1, 2, 3, and 4 with the content area in each week. And that really limits the testing only to about an hour 15 per week. They did actually end up shortening the forward exam a little bit by about 90 minutes in middle school. And how they did that was, for the most part, they just took out the writing section and the ELA portion of the exam. One of the biggest challenges this year with forward testing as a whole is that we need to bring it into all virtual students that test, which in the middle school is about 75 kids. So what we're actually going to end up doing, we're going to be sending out a survey that's going to give parents the opportunity to kind of pick times they can come in the building. One of those days is going to be on a Wednesday, which is going to allow those families who aren't comfortable coming in on a traditional classroom day to come in on a Wednesday when obviously it's just kind of as our teacher in-service day. And there will be other days as well for them to come in. But we still really do need them to come in. It's really important they come in. So when they kind of return back from break, they'll be given the opportunity to kind of complete the item samplers along with the different types of study questions and kind of work through the online tools training. So that's kind of our initial plan for forward testing. They did extend the whole test window by an extra 2 weeks. The test window actually starts March 26th. I know we're on spring break, and it actually closes May 14th. Kind of like how I've got it set up in middle school, we're using those 4 weeks, and that still gives us another 2 week buffer in there to kind of get some of those other virtual kids to come in. So that's kind of our plan moving forward to forward testing. So it was kind of our plan last year to kind of do it this way. COVID kind of stole my thunder with it. So this is how we're going to try to do it this year. We're going to see how it goes. So thank you so much.
Will the music
think-
performances be on the webpage?
Yep. Yes, it'll be on the front page of the webpage. Yes.
All right.
And I think the goal of all of this is to ensure that we're truly getting at what the learning is or what the learning needs are rather than it being a function of the test-taking environment. So we're trying to pull the potential difficult aspects of the environment out of the equation and trying to determine where kids are. And I know that there are a lot of conversations about, should we have to test kids? What's the value of testing? I will say that right now, it's going to be very important for us moving into next year to get an understanding of what our students' skill levels are, because it's very difficult to provide that kind of intervention and remediation if we don't know what their skill levels are. And so this is going to be a difficult time. I think every school district across this nation probably is going to see areas where we need to provide additional intervention and support for our students. But I really believe the sooner we know what that looks like, the better we'll be able to craft some of our summer programming and our programming overall for next year as we get kind of further down this road. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
So committee reports, the committee that met was our Education Review Committee, and that was to look at 4K. So really, I don't think there's a need for a committee report there based on the conversation we've had this evening in 4K. Going forward, however, we tried to, but I know schedules are very busy, but I would like to try and schedule a finance committee, especially as we start trying to bring more form and function to our overall budget. And I think that that's Ted and Nick. So I'll be bugging you again this week to try and find a time to
We
pull
want
it
to wait
together.
until Marquez is able to prepare some of those like historical trends.
Yeah, I'm actually happy that next week is spring break because I'm going to be here hopefully mostly uninterrupted, so I should get a bulk of that done by next week. So
So I'll get in contact, to set something up. We actually have a little bit bigger window between this and our next board meeting because of spring break. But I'd like to at least sometime between now and that next meeting okay. Our next regular school board meeting will be 7 p.m. Tuesday, April 27th, 2021, here.
I move to adjourn the meeting at 8:08 p.m.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And we are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
You,
No, thank you.
you were on.